Good afternoon and welcome to The Yarn, Homespun Arts and Music on IPL Radio. You're here with Sandy and my silent co-host, my service dog Cloda, is by my side. Unfortunately, Russ Bus wasn't able to join us today. He had to work. He's a rigger and he's putting together the stage for the Ministry of Sound Orchestra concert that is coming up on Saturday the 8th and 9th of December. I was lucky enough to score a ticket, so I'll be heading there on the 9th of December to see Ministry of Sound with a full-blown orchestra, which should be really good. So what have I been up to? I went and saw a couple of bands on Friday night play at Mojo's, my favourite venue. And that was Old Blood, and they were joined by Legs Electric, Satisfaction Guaranteed, and it was a really great event. So I'd like to play a little bit of all of them for us. First of all, I think I'll play them in the order that they played on Friday night. So we'll start off with a little bit of Old Blood, Medicine Man Live. Old Blood are a really great local blues band, and my dad was the lead singer of a blues band, so I've been into the blues for a long, long time. And I think Old Blood are one of the best local blues bands that I've seen. They've got a really old school style, which I really like. We're also going to play a little bit of That's How It Goes by Satisfaction Guaranteed. So let's have a listen now. You're listening to The Yarn on IPL Radio. It's Homespun Arts and Music, where we play local music all afternoon. And we're going to have a chat with a local artist, Chris Winspear, in a couple of minutes. And we'll also be crossing live to Albany, where we'll be having a chat with a wonderful folk musician, Simone Keane, who's just released her new album, Graced by Leaves. I was lucky enough to get sent a copy of the album, which is not available on Spotify, but is available on Bandcamp. And I was lucky enough to get sent a signed CD, old school CD copy of Graced by Leaves, and it's a lovely album. So as I said, we'll be having a chat with Simone at about 3:00. And just to play our albums, that was Old Blood with Medicine Man, and Satisfaction Guaranteed with That's How It Is. And next we're going to have a listen to Legs Electric, who I also saw on Friday night. They were the headline act with their new song Dances with Wolves, or something like that. I did have it written down, Dance Like a Wolf, beg your pardon. And I don't have that one to play for you this afternoon because it takes a little while to get them on our playlist. But I do have some old school Legs Electric, and this is it with Black Moon. And we'll be right back with Chris Winspear, who is a beautiful gold, they call him the gold guy. I met him at Gallows Gallery, where he came in to have a chat with the owner, Catherine, about exhibiting there in the new year. So he'll be exhibiting in the new year at Gallows Gallery. But in the meantime, we'll have a chat with him and show you how you can have a look at his work. But while I'm getting him on the phone, let's have a listen to Black Moon by Legs Electric. And you're back with The Yarn, Homespun Arts and Music on IPL Radio. You're here with Sandy and my co-host Cloda, who won't be talking today because she's a dog, and dogs don't generally talk much. But she is by my side to keep me company. Oh, you can hear her shaking. That was Black Moon by Legs Electric, who, as I said, I was lucky enough to see on Friday night at Mojo's play with Old Blood and Satisfaction Guaranteed. It was a real good night of blues and rock and roll. For those that haven't seen Legs Electric or Satisfaction Guaranteed, they are real performers. I really recommend. I think they sound great on Spotify or other streaming services, but it doesn't quite translate to what they are live because they are such performance artists that remind me of a little bit of Tina Turner with Legs Electric and a little bit of, what's his name, Rolling Stones. The name eludes me. What's the lead singer of the Rolling Stones? Oh, the name's gone from my head, but he reminds me of him. So we've got Chris Winspear, artist, on the phone this afternoon. He was going to come in live to the studio, but had a family commitment a little bit later on this afternoon, so he's going to join us on the phone, and I think I've got you there now. Are you there, Chris?
I am, Sandy. Good afternoon.
Great.
How you going?
Oh, good. Good. I'm glad you can hear us. So
absolutely. And by the way, the name you're looking for is Mick Jagger.
Mick Jagger. I had the J in my head, but I was like, Jack something. No. I describe them as having the moves of Mick Jagger, the stage presence of Elton John, and the vocal performance of Freddie Mercury. So they have a lot to live up for, the satisfaction guaranteed, and they really do.
100%.
Yeah. So,
but before we jump in, Sandy, would you please do me a huge favour and just lean over and give Clodagh a little scratch for me behind the ear?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Bless you.
I'm doing that right now.
Good on you.
So Chris is, as I mentioned earlier, is an artist that I met at the Gallows Gallery when I was actually there for an artist talk by another jeweller. And Chris came in to have a look at that jeweller's work and have a chat with Catherine about exhibiting there early next year. So we're hoping that comes to fruition. But in the meantime, if you could tell us a little bit about where you're from, and yeah, we'll start with that. Where are you from? Who are you?
Chris? Yeah, sure. So, as I mentioned, name's Chris Winspear. I come from South Africa. I was born there, moved to Sydney when I was 14, which is 97. And so South Africa, we have 11 official languages, and I come from an English-speaking household. So, I love languages now, but at the time, languages and I weren't getting on so well, and Afrikaans was a compulsory language. So when I went to Sydney, I had to do subject selection and choose between doing jewelry, German, or Japanese. I thought, look, taking a language at this point is so great. So I ended up taking jewelry.
Yep.
And I've carried on with it ever since. I've been doing it for 25 years now. And then, after high school, studied jewelry design manufacture, which was back in South Africa. I was there for another 14 years. Uh-huh. And I've been here in Perth for 8 years now. So time flies.
So you started when you were 14 and you've been practicing jewellery making ever since. What made you go from being a jeweller to being an artist? What kind of inspired you to make that crossover?
So there were a few things that really was the bits of inspiration, but the main catalyst for me was when we were living in South Africa. So my wife and I, we weren't married at the time, and we were working in the business together, and then we got married in January 2014. And that same year, on the 22nd of October, I had an armed robbery at the office. I left a note for my wife to get all mushy, but it was our wedding song on the iPad because I was going in without her that day. So she got the note and phoned me up. Mm-hmm. And when I got into the office, she got the note, I answered the phone, and I had a guy running down the passage pointing a gun in my face. And I thought I was about to get shot at that moment. So I didn't want her to hear that happening. Uh-huh. So I hung up on her. And then basically, a long story short, is I was assaulted. I was hit over the head with a gun. I was tied up on the floor, lying in a pool of my own blood, and I overheard them talking about. And then I overheard them talking about whether or not to shoot me. So I talked them out of that. But as traumatic as it was, I'm really grateful because that was probably one of the, if not the biggest catalyst to get me to get into doing my art. Uh-huh. Because it was a great reminder that the only thing that is an unrenewable resource that we'll have is time. Uh-huh. We have to do what we need to do with our life. And you will have that voice, but for artists, creatives, doesn't matter what it is. There's something, this gut feeling that you have to do something. And that was really a great turning point in my life to get me to basically just commit and do what I know I need to do with my life. And in that process, as a result of that incident, we ended up moving to Australia, and basically the artistic side started to unfurl from there.
Uh-huh. And I've had a look at. I'm sorry to hear that you went through such a traumatic event, but I'm glad it had a positive. You were able to find a positive outcome from that event.
Thank you.
So I've had a look at your website, and you sent me some videos the other day of your beautiful spiders. Can you tell me about what inspired you to sculpt spiders in gold and rivet them with diamonds?
Yeah, so basically, from the art side of things, because I've been manufacturing jewelry for 25 years, my medium is precious metals and gold. So some artists might use paint, others would use clay. Mine's gold. So what happened was when we first came to Australia, or the second time, my wife's first time. Now when we moved to Perth 8 years ago, we were staying in a rental unit, and we're just aware that there's just a lot of spiders around. So we got a fumigator to come out and do his thing. And when we came home from work that afternoon, I was quite horrified to see just how many spiders there were. These little critters, bless them, they crawled out from where they were hiding and passed on to the next life, leaving their little carcasses all over the footpath. And I was looking at this, and after I kind of got over the shock, I looked at this lot and I was like, what could I do with these guys? And because of our technology that we have in the workshop, I was able to create one-time use molds with each individual carcass and convert them into gold. And that's really where the whole angle started. So all the spiders that I do use have either been fumigated or at risk of being fumigated.
And you've caught them.
Yeah. So we catch them and put them in a freezer, because according to the research that I've done, the most humane way of putting spiders to sleep is to freeze them, as opposed to using a pesticide. The pesticides are actually quite unfriendly. So so that's basically what I do. So you put them in the freezer pre-fumigation, or if I can catch them as soon as possible after fumigation, freeze them.
Oh, great. And do you still make jewellery, or do you focus on the sculpture these days?
I still do jewellery. I have an online business with my wife, called Vinny and Charles, which is our online jewellery brand. And the big transition for me is that the jewellery is a beautiful art form in itself, but there's obviously very particular conformities that are expected to be met. So high polished surfaces and all the rest of it. So sort of, if you imagine your mind's eye. Now, we're not mainstream style. We're very unique. We're very nature-inspired jewelry. But at the same time, there's not a very broad spectrum of creative outlet within that narrative, where creating the art, that's more of I say a primal thing. That's more from the soul, in the sense where it's like, this is just, I'm creating this because I have to create this, not because I'm trying to meet a client's brief that is wanting to purchase a piece of jewelry.
And did you design your wife's wedding jewellery and
I did, yes, but I didn't manufacture myself because I'm not a superstitious guy, but there is a superstition out there in the jewellery world that you don't make your own wedding and engagement ring. So I had my journeyman make it for me, but I designed it. I was like, all right, look, I don't want to tempt fate. This is an incredible person I'm with. She's my person. so I had him do it for me. This is Dimitri, yeah.
And one question we ask a lot of our artists, so how do you price your art? It's a very, very difficult thing to do. People, sometimes it's by size, sometimes it's by time, sometimes it's a gut feeling, or by what other people tell you is a good price. I know I do mosaics, and I've just sold my first piece. Mind you, I've never offered another piece for sale because I couldn't price them. I couldn't put, it took me this many hours, what am I going to price myself out at $2 or $3 an hour? So I have always given them away. And then I was specifically making a piece to sell, and it sold before I even finished it. So I was pretty stoked with that. But it made me think maybe I should have put my price up a bit. Maybe it was a bit cheap. But I was happy with the price I got. How do you price your art?
Well, firstly, as one artist to another, that's incredible. Congratulations. That's a huge win.
Oh, thank you.
And it's really important to recognize every win that we get, because there's so many stumbling blocks that we end up putting in our own way, let alone what we encounter in the real world.
Yeah.
So to recognize that as a win, that's huge. So very, very well done, and congratulations. It's great. Then from a pricing perspective, because of my experience in the jewelry trade, I've actually just learned on that as a benchmark, and I use it from one way I think is a great way of looking at it is say, right, well, let's say hypothetically, I'm doing this full time. I'm making a living doing art X, right? Whatever that art form might be. So then, okay, well, my rent and my expenses are A, B, and C. I need X, Y, Z to buy food and have a living. And then you say, like, so before you start each month, by the end of that month, you know that, you're in for X amount of dollars.
Yep.
Whether it's, 5,000, 10,000, whatever, the numbers are relevant, but you'll be able to calculate what your monthly expenses are that you need to live by. Then say, right, well, what do I then need to make per week? And you can then break that down to an hourly rate.
Yeah.
So, right, this is what I need to earn. And if you're using material, then you also have to obviously keep in mind that there's a very real cost of those materials. And then you need to incorporate that as well. And also, again, being cognitive of the fact that you might sit on this piece for a period of time. It could be a few weeks, it could be months, it could even be years, who knows. But recognize that there is a cost that you're going to have to just store it as well.
Yep.
So just being aware of those, not saying that that's how you have to price it, especially getting started. I think you could be more on the cost effective side, but still make sure that it's worth your time. But the most important thing is your soul food, right? If not every piece of art or not everything needs to be monetized.
No,
Recognize
that's
this
why
is very,
I'm
very
saying
important, right?
I give most of mine away rather than put a monetary figure on them, because I think they're worth a lot more than I could actually sell them for. Based on, I know just how much time and effort, and I know it's good quality too. Yeah,
100%, absolutely. So recognizing that you don't have to monetize things to provide that soul food. That's your self-expression. That's your gift that you have to the world.
Yep.
Whether you're able to make money from it or you decide not to make money from it, that's entirely up to the individual. But there's nothing wrong with making money from your art. I think it's a beautiful and it's a necessity. It's a necessity. It's something that should actually happen.
Yes.
And it needs to happen.
Yes.
Because money is nothing more than an amplifier. It makes you more capable of doing what you natively are as an individual.
I've always considered money to be just an exchange of energy.
Yeah,
I'm saying that my energy is worth this much per hour to do this or that much per hour to do that. And like I had a friend who was a Reiki healer, and he didn't feel right charging for his Reiki healings. And I was like, well, you're exchanging your energy. You've gone and learnt how to do this. You've spent the time perfecting your skill in this. And he was a really good Reiki healer. Like, I haven't had a cold sore since, and I used to have cold sores all the time. And I haven't, and we're talking 25 years ago now, or 20 years ago that, since I've seen him, and I haven't had a cold sore since. So
Amazing.
I said to him that money is just an exchange of energy, and you are exchanging your energy, and you can do it by donation if you feel, in those wellness fields, if you feel that putting a price on it is discriminatory or whatever. But yeah, it's just an exchange of energy.
It really is. And again, there's so many different narratives and feelings towards money as a form of transaction. But I mean, the other angle could be, let's say, artist X, they have a 9-to-5 job that they're happy at working at, and then they have their art practice on the side. If they were to sell a piece from that, well, oblivious of whatever they charge, but they could say, right, well, the proceeds from the sale of my art, I'm actually going to donate that to a charity, or I'm going to, if they don't feel comfortable to take that money for themselves, there is other avenues that they can still leverage. They can add more value to the world by doing so. And I also feel that by asking someone to pay for your work, firstly, it finds out who's the members. When I say a member of your community, your people, all right? What I mean by that is someone that really resonates with you. Everyone will have that. There's actually a really interesting paper. I highly recommend everyone read it. It's Kevin Kelly, 1000 True Fans. The website is KK, the letter K.org, O-R-G. And type in, the last time I checked the website, it was a bit of a rabbit hole. So it'll be easier if you just go into Google, say KK.org, or Kevin Kelly, 1000 True Fans. It's only 2 pages long, but it's a really, really interesting way of how an artist, in that context, he's talking about musicians, a band, but how it goes down to the dollars and cents and just how little money you need to charge each person to actually create a livable income from doing your art. And it's just a really great way. And you can break that down to any discipline, any art form, I believe. You can interpret it. You just take out the word musician and put in what it is that you do.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's a good little roadmap, so to speak, and a way around it, I just think is great. But getting back to what I was saying is if you're charging for your work, you're able to find people that really resonate with it and they're happy to pay money for it, as opposed to if you're giving it away, there's plenty of people out there that'll take stuff for free.
Yeah,
it doesn't mean to say that they're... Exactly. They don't value it. I'm not saying all of them don't value it, but there's a big chance that a lot of them won't value it.
I find that because I have a charity, Friends of the Arts Inclusive resource, fair, and we put on an annual art exhibition in an accessible space to make the arts accessible and inclusive. And I found when we've put on free shows, we might, in inverted commas, sell 100 tickets, but only 25 people turn up. Because they haven't actually paid for the ticket. They don't value it as... And yet, if we put a $10 or $15 price tag on the ticket, 85% of people turn up that have bought a ticket, because if they don't come, they give their ticket away to someone else. They're saying, I paid $25 for these tickets. Do you want them? And to their mates, and their mates come in their place. Whereas if it's a free ticket, they don't even bother to try and on sell it or give it away.
There's a perception of value that's created when there's a monetary exchange.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter what that monetary exchange is. It can be a large amount, it can be a small amount. But as long as there's a transaction that's taken place, they know that I had to trade X number of hours of my life to purchase this ticket.
Yes.
Therefore, it has value, or this piece of art, it has value. And that's a great way of just separating the people that are those people that really believe in what it is that you're doing, and are willing to invest money into you to grow. Because look at it that way, they're willing to pay you for something that you created. Yeah. And by doing that, they are backing you up. They are your investors. Yes. They're saying, I believe in you. I'm willing to trade a portion of my life, which I've spent my time earning this money, and I'm giving it to you. That is the most beautiful and sincerest transaction I think you could possibly get. And that is a beautiful thing. So asking people to pay for your art, whatever amount that is a good thing.
Yes, I agree. I'm going to actually go to a song for a minute.
Perfect.
This is Jack Davies and the Bush Chooks, which my regular listeners will know. We play a Jack Davies every week. Jack Davies and the Bush Chooks is my favourite band. They're a local outfit in Fremantle. Their next gig is on the 9th of December at the Fremantle Arts Centre, where they'll be releasing their latest album, or their latest single, I should say. And we obviously don't have that yet because it hasn't been released yet, but it's off the same album as Orange Peel and what's the name of their other new song? I don't have it here in front of me. Orange Peel and Everybody's Looking is then there's two songs off their new album, but I'm actually going to play an old favourite of mine. This is Michael, and I was lucky enough to see Jack Davies play at his residency at Clancy's in October, and he actually relearnt this song just for me because it's my favourite Jack Davies song, so I've been wanting to play it for everybody else. This song goes for 6 minutes, so let's sit back and have a listen to Michael, and then we'll be right back with Chris Winspear for a bit more art chat. You're listening to The Yarn, Homespun Arts and Music on IPL Radio, and that was Michael by Jack Davies and the Bush Chooks, my favourite song of Jack Davies. So for those of you that listen regularly, you know that I love Jack Davies and play him every week because I believe every playlist should include at least one Jack Davies, and that's my actual favourite song of Jack Davies. So I think that says something. So we're here with Chris Winspear this afternoon, who is a gold artist, or an artist that uses gold as his medium, and he's had a background in jewellery making and now creates beautiful sculptures of spiders and other insects. Is that would I be saying that correctly, Chris?
Yeah, yeah. Insects or flowers as well. I convert them into gold. But yes. Yeah.
And we were talking earlier in the week about why you do your art, as in like what makes you sort of have to do it.
Yeah, this is the thing, right? I have no words to explain it. It's a feeling. It's a deeper feeling than just a normal feeling. It's something I have to do. I cannot put into words. It's my whole being. My purpose is to create, and if I'm not doing that, I'm not in a good space. It's what, if I don't do it, you end up just going down a rabbit hole. And I think a large part of this experience for me is to be of service to other people, and the best way that I can do that is through my art. And it's my self-expression. It's just something I have to do.
And mentioned that you were trained as a jeweler. Are you able to support yourself entirely off your arts practice, or do you still work as a jeweler as well?
So the art practice is still relatively new in terms of going to the public domain with it. So it is still new. So no, I'm not supporting myself off the art itself at this minute. We're still using, we've got our online business, our jewelry business that is keeping the wolf away from the door on a month-to-month basis. But with every intent is we're looking at getting in extra team members to take over the manufacturing side that I'm typically involved in the workshop from the jewelry side, and I'm planning on getting into the arts full time.
And so in terms of getting into the art full time, I assume you'll be exhibiting in the near future? Yes,
so there's a few galleries that have been chatting to you. Mentioned Gallows. They're still very, very early days. I only just recently met Catherine from Gallows. So, Catherine, if you happen to be listening, no pressure. But no, so in all seriousness, though, there's definitely having a chat to a couple of galleries locally as well as on the East Coast. There's also been some very interesting conversations I've had with galleries out in Melbourne, in Amsterdam, as well as Chicago in America.
Oh, wow. And what brought that about? Why Chicago? Why Amsterdam? What happened?
So part of what the long-term goal is with the art is to get into the Web3 and NFT space as well. So it's a bit of, again, another rabbit hole, but basically the idea would be doing mobile exhibitions and exhibiting in these destinations. Once every 6 months, go to an international destination and exhibit in Gallery X, and not just use that as a platform for the people within that area who are familiar with what I'm doing to come and interact and engage with the sculptures, but also relying on the audience that are associated with each gallery to potentially be onboarded to what it is that we're putting forward.
And so do you have any dates as yet, or are we just talking early next year at this point?
Early next year at this point. The big thing that I actually really got to get done is provide additional pieces to create a sufficient body of work to present.
Yeah. So you're still having to make those pieces between now and early next year?
Yeah, but all is on track, so I'm very, very comfortable and confident that that's a non-issue.
Excellent. And where can our listeners go to see your art? I know you have a website. Do you want to plug that?
Yeah, if I may, thank you. So chriswinspear.com, so CHRIS, and Winspear, so Whiskey, India, November, Sierra, Papa, Echo, Alpha, Romeo.com.
I find it more confusing when you use
So I think win is in a victory and spear is in a throwing spear.
Yeah.
So chriswinspear.com. There's an email list where people can opt in to provide the email if they'd like to. So when we get some finalized dates, I'll be reaching out to people on the contact list, as well as the normal Instagram. People can go into the Instagram. It's Chris Winspear Official, and they can find the Instagram page there.
Great. So for those that would like to view Chris's work, that's Chris Winspear, CHRIS Winspear, WINSPEAR. .com, and you can also find Chris on Facebook or just Instagram?
Just Instagram.
Just Instagram?
Yeah.
And for those that wanted to know, I just had while I was having a look at my Insta to bring up Chris's, it popped up that Jack Davies' new single launch is called Clothes Peg. For those that were listening earlier and heard me mention that he was launching his new single on the 9th of December at the Fremantle Arts Centre. That's off the new album Orange Peel, and the single is Clothes Peg. But please do go and have a look at Chris's website. Now, keep in mind these sculptures are around about 30 or 40 centimetres, so you don't quite get the scope when you're looking at them without because they're attached to wood, which is found wood, is it not?
Correct, yeah. So the sculptures with the wood, I haven't uploaded those images to the website yet. There's the Adagio piece, which is there. That's roughly about the size of a person's fist, an average sort of fist. That's got a huntsman spider encased in 18-karat yellow gold. Everything's in 18-karat yellow gold.
Uh-huh.
But then the other pieces, I'll be uploading them in the next few days.
So I'm just having a look at those now. They're very beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And I believe that you rivet them to the wood using diamonds.
Great. So I'm using gold as the rivet, and I'm terminating the rivets with diamonds. Yeah, diamonds, and the piece I'm working on, I'm using rubies as well to terminate the rivets.
Excellent.
I believe, as far as I was concerned, every single thing needs to have attention. So often in a production process, like, a person's not going to see the back of this, so it's fine just to have it as is. But I feel personally that by going the extra effort and putting in whatever that detail might be, it really just shows a far more complete creation. And it shows that you've actually taken the time and the effort to actually consider every aspect, whether it's going to be seen or not. I think it adds a lot of value, just for me personally.
Yes, I can imagine. I imagine they're not cheap though, being large 18-karat gold pieces with diamonds.
No, unfortunately not. The gold tends to add up very, very quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I know you've got a family event to get to at 3:00, Chris. So I'll let you go. Thank you so much for coming on our show this afternoon and having a chat with us about your wonderful artworks. And I do look forward to catching up with you again soon. Hopefully at your upcoming exhibitions, and if you let us know about them, we can plug them on the air before they come up.
Thank you. But before we shoot off, I really just want to reach out to listeners who might be able to get some value out of this. And it's just, art is such a personal thing, and I truly believe people need to embrace it. Their own art, whatever it is, they need to get out of themselves. But there's so many roadblocks that we put up in our mind. So, and the one big concern is, this idea of conformity, that, we've got to all look the same, we've got to be the same. But we're not. The human experience is such that we all have our own weirdnesses, right? So embrace your weirdness is your superpower. We all have those little weird quirks, and that is what differentiates you from someone else. And be a flower. A flower never compares itself to the flower next door. A flower just blooms. So you have to just bloom. And if you're struggling for inspiration, struggle is your inspiration. Just create from that. You don't have to have this grand plan of what it needs to look like. Just start. And if you apply even 1 hour a day, 1 hour every day for a year is the equivalent of 9 40-hour weeks.
Yes.
It is a ridiculously large amount of time.
Yeah.
And off the bat, I got 1 hour, what am I going to do with that? But if you do that every day, even half an hour, it is so much time to create.
And you find,
just get that out there.
I've mentioned a few times on this show that when I do my mosaics, I can stay up all night and not have a sleep if I'm in the zone, because I find it so relaxing that it's the equivalent of a night's sleep, staying up mosaicing all night, listening to good music. As you know, I like my local music. Listening to a bit of Jack Davies or a bit of Dan Howes, who we've got coming up next, and just getting into it, and it's so relaxing that I sort of intend to spend about an hour, and before I know it, I look up and it's 4 a.m. and I think, well, I may as well stay awake. because I'm going to get up in a few hours anyway. And I do recommend, I agree with you 100%, if you can, find half an hour a day to do something creative, and you'll find that your mindfulness and relaxation levels, and it doesn't have to be expensive, just use cheap paint, use old plates to mosaic. You'll probably find that you want to upgrade as you practice more and more, but it doesn't have to be expensive to start.
Exactly right, 100%.
And it doesn't matter what you produce. It's not the goal. It's the journey, not the destination, sort of scenario.
100%, and it's the company, which is your media that you're using, and that experience.
Oh, thank you so much for your time this afternoon, Chris. It's been lovely having a chat.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for the opportunity. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
No worries, and I'll talk to you soon.
All the best, eh?
Okay, bye. And so we're going to play a little bit of Dan Howe's now. We're going to play Mood, which is a very moody song. So let's have a listen, and we'll be back with Simone Keane on the radio very soon. And you're listening to The Yarn, Homespun Arts and Music on IPL Radio, where we play local music all afternoon and chat art and music with local artists and musicians. That was Mood by Dan Howes, who came away with Best Blues and Roots Artists of the Whammies last week. And now we are joined this afternoon by Simone Keane, who is a wonderful folk musician residing in Albany. So she's joining us on the phone today, being from Albany. It was a bit much to ask her to come all the way to Rockingham. Simone, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm well. Thank you, Sandy. Thanks for having me.
Oh, pleasure. I came across your music on the socials and was very keen to have you on the radio because I think you do a beautiful body of work, and thank you for sending me the album a couple of weeks ago. I've had the chance to have a listen to most of it. I really like Rhiannon Blues.
Yeah, me too. My mum likes that one too.
Oh, I'm a bit of a blues fan, so... Now, you had Lucky Oceans playing pedal steel on the title track and selected songs throughout the album. How was that?
Pretty amazing. Unexpected. I was very nervous when my producer, Lee Buddle, suggested we get Lucky Oceans in. Initially, I said, no, don't. He won't want to play on my songs. How embarrassing. But Lee said, no, he will. He'll love it. I'll just give him a call. And, yeah, he just came in and played on 4 of the songs.
Oh, wonderful. Were you a big Lucky Oceans fan before that?
Oh, I've been following Lucky Oceans for many years. Ever since I moved to WA, his name was just popping up.
Yeah.
He was running his radio program then. And so I knew how big he was in the industry, for sure. Yeah,
and you also had Ben Franz from the Waifs.
Yeah, that was amazing as well. All these things aligning. So Ben just happened to be in Perth, and I needed some bass tracks laid down. And Lee contacted me and said, "Oh, Ben's in Perth. Should I get him in?" And I'm like, yeah. So yeah, that's and he's been great. He's sort of been following the progress of the album and everything online. So yeah, really great guy.
Oh, great. I was hoping to have the Waifs in here in the radio, but it hasn't eventuated yet. They said maybe October. So we'll see. They're away in the eastern states at the moment. So
yeah, well, Donna had a really major accident.
Oh, did she?
Yeah, so they've had to put things on hold for a bit.
Oh,
yeah,
no.
She fell off one of those. She fell off one of those e-scooters and did some major damage to her ribs, and yeah,
I hope
full
she's
on.
going to be all right.
I think so. I think
such
she's
a
on the
lovely
road.
person, Donna.
Yeah, I think from what I've heard, she's on the road to recovery, but sort of unable to to tour. So I think they're resuming that next year. So maybe that's why they haven't been able to get into the show. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about yourself, Simone. Who are you? What's your style?
So I'm originally from Victoria, and I drove across the Nullarbor to start my music career, basically, because like about 19, or more than that, maybe 20 years ago or something, I drove over, and I'd heard that the pubs over here didn't have the pokey machines.
Yes, yeah, we voted them out.
Yeah, and very different to pubs over where I was from, and they were killing the music scene over there. So I just came over here and heard there was a really cool scene, and in Albany, pretty much as soon as I landed here, there was this audition for a musician's residency at the Vancouver Arts Centre here called Recipe for Jam, and they wanted 10 musicians to sort of reside together on that residence and then come up with a series of songs together and then put on a concert. And that's where I met a lot of musicians, and my first producer, Les Karski, who sort of said, "Oh, I'd love to, produce a CD of yours," and it all sort of started happening from there. And yeah, I released a couple of CDs, and yeah, I've never stopped writing, but I have had sort of retreats from the scene. And this time, I thought I want to do an album that I'm really proud of, and work a bit harder, sort of getting it out there. So here I am on your show.
And are you going to be gigging?
Yeah, so I've got a gig. Where am I going? Oh, next weekend I'm playing in Denmark at the Dam. I played a show in Joondalup a couple of weeks ago. It was a group of women got up and we took it in turns singing.
Oh, I heard about that. I didn't get to go because I had the show on, and it was in Joondalup. I'm from Fremantle.
Yeah, I know. I've learned
Fremantle.
I've learned a bit about the north and south of the river thing.
Yeah,
I heard a bit of that when
technically
I was,
I'm north of the river because I'm in North Fremantle. But there's this thing called the Fremantle Bubble where, I mean, I'm down here in Rockingham today, but it takes a lot to get. I nearly called in sick because I was like, "Oh God, I can't be bothered with the drive."
Well, I'm glad you did. I'm glad you made it.
Yeah, no, I thought I couldn't let everyone down. So normally I have a co-host with me who does the driving because I just hate. I'm not a fan of driving. I think I'm good at it. I just don't like other people on the road.
Well, that's totally understandable.
Yeah,
it's a bit hectic up there.
So who are your influences?
Well, initially when I started writing my own songs, I was listening to Mazzy Star at the time. And, I just loved her gentle style. So I was just sort of playing some gentle songs. I really like Emmylou Harris. Love Stevie Nicks. I listened to a lot of ABBA when I was a kid. Big influence on me is Leonard Cohen.
Yes, yeah, I love Leonard Cohen.
Just stunning songwriter, and just that melodic beauty that really makes you feel something.
Yeah, it was a shame when we lost him recently.
Yeah, I know.
I was hoping to be able to get to one of his concerts before that happened, but no such luck.
Me too. Yeah, I didn't get there, unfortunately. But yeah, huge influence actually he is, because I like writing songs that make me feel something. I mean, sometimes when a song comes to me, I'm actually crying myself. And I think, geez, okay, maybe I've got something here. Maybe I'll finish this song and I'll try and record it.
So I'm going to play one of your songs now. This one is Graced by Leaves, the title track off the new album Graced by Leaves. It's been described as being intensely beautiful, rich with unabashed emotion. Your fifth album is sure to touch even the most stoic of hearts. Produced by Lee Buddle, the production values through this captivating contemporary album have a warm, pure integrity. Each song references trees, from making love under one to being buried beneath another. Trees are both literal and symbolic conduits for the stories within Keane's songs. In the title track, which I'm going to ask you to describe rather than reading it out from here, in the title track, Graced by Leaves, tell us what it's about.
So it starts off a story about when I was a child, and one of my favourite trees was chopped down in our front yard to make way for some extensions, and it was my tree that I used to sit in. It's sort of like my magic faraway tree. I was reading it at Enid Blyton's Magic Faraway Tree.
That's my favourite book growing up.
Yeah, and mine too. And I just imagined I was in there, and then just suddenly, we're putting on some extensions. It's going, and that was my first experience of losing
loss.
something. Yeah. And I found it really hard to kind of comprehend, and I didn't really know who to talk to about it or anything. So that was just sort of all internalized. And then the song sort of becomes more of a metaphor of the loss of people that we loved in our lives and how we miss the way they graced us with their presence.
Well, let's have a listen. This is Graced by Leaves by Simone Keane. And you're listening to The Yarn, Homespun Arts and Music on IPL Radio. That was Graced by Leaves off the title track of her new album. Simone Keane is on the phone with us right now from Albany. Thanks again for joining us, Simone.
That's okay. It's a pleasure to be here.
It was a beautiful song. It had me reminiscing about my mum, who I lost in 2021. And, yeah, it was a very beautiful song for mourning somebody too, I think.
Yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to do for people. Yeah, sorry to hear about your mum.
Oh, it's all right. It's been a while, but yeah, I still miss her every day.
I bet you do.
I do. I used to talk to her just about every day. And she never got to hear me on the radio because she passed away before I started, so was very unfortunate. But let's move on to brighter subjects. The next song we're going to play is Kicking Up the Leaves, which says here is a catchy folk pop single.
Yeah, this was the first single that I released before I released the album. And it's a bit different to most of the songs I've ever written. And I don't know how it came to me. I was just mucking around on the guitar, and this little riff came to me, and it's sort of a little sort of magical chant about escaping into the forest to reveal some things, traumatic things that you can't talk to human beings about, and just sort of kick them back with the birds and the trees and the leaves.
Excellent. Before we have a listen, we'll have a little bit more chat. When did you start? You play a few instruments. You play you do the vocals, the acoustic guitar and percussion. When did you start playing those instruments, and when did you know that you had a voice to be an artist, a singer?
I started getting some guitar lessons, just learning little folky tunes when I was about 9 or 10. Back in Victoria, in my hometown of Camperdown, and I was being shown some Joni Mitchell tunes, and the first song I learnt was actually a David Bowie tune, was Sorrow, because it only had 2 chords. I sort of played at a school assembly, but then when I became a teenager, I kind of put it all away because I was interested in doing more other things. And Then in my mid-20s, I picked up my guitar again, and this was after when I'd been listening to Mazzy Star, and I just started writing bits of songs, but never ever imagined that I'd be performing them or recording them.
Uh-huh.
And then someone heard me singing. I became a school teacher, and someone heard me singing at a concert there and asked me to be in their musical. And I was in musicals,
Cute.
like just, amateur theatre musicals.
Uh-huh.
And it wasn't until I was in my 30s that I actually started writing songs and recording them and performing them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And how do you write your songs? Do you get the melody first? Is it a piece of poetry? How does it happen that a song goes from an idea to a completed song?
So it just sort of pops into my head at random moments.
Uh-huh.
I'll just sort of start singing something, and like the melody mainly, I think, comes to me first.
Uh-huh.
Most of the time. Whereas Kicking Up the Leaves was weird. It was the guitar bit that came first.
Yeah, you mentioned the guitar riff.
Yeah.
Occurred to you before anything else.
I think sometimes I feel like there's some universal energy giving me these songs,
mm-hmm.
because I just don't know how it happens or where they come from. But when it happens, I quickly pick up my phone and press the voice recorder,
uh-huh.
so that I've got that melody or those few words that I'm singing. I think, okay, this has just come from out of the blue. I need to get this down, and then I craft it into a song.
Uh-huh. All right, well, let's have a listen to Kicking Up the Leaves. As I mentioned, this is described as a folky, catchy pop song. So
Yeah.
I thought it might be nice to have something a little uplifting in between.
Exactly.
So let's have a listen, and we'll be right back. It's just a 4-minute song, so we'll be right back after this. And you're listening to The Yarn, Homespun Arts and Music on IPL Radio. And I can say that IPL Radio is very supportive of people with disabilities. I have a mental health disability myself, and that's why I chose to have a radio show on IPL, because I like to talk about the arts and the local music scene, and like to talk to local artists and local musicians, and was lucky enough to be granted a show, The Yarn, Homespun Arts and Music, on IPL, where I can explore those passions. Speaking of local musicians, today we have Simone Keane on the phone from Albany, and that was one of her beautiful tracks, Kicking Up the Leaves, off her new album Graced by Leaves, which is out on Bandcamp. Is that correct, Simone?
Yes, it is.
Tell me why you chose not to put it out on Spotify.
Because Spotify don't give the best quality sound. So a lot of work went into the production of this, and just to put a whole album on Spotify and have that sound squashed out of it and the dynamics, I couldn't live with that.
Yep.
And plus,
that's understandable.
musicians, musos will tell you, like, independent musicians hardly make any money at all off Spotify. So, like, when people think they are downloading your album, they think that money is going to the artist. It's not really.
Yeah.
So I just sort of think, well, because the album's sort of conceptual, every song's about leaves, like I didn't want the songs to be taken out of order, or I didn't want it all to be ripped apart, strangled basically. So strangled by Spotify. So I just thought, well, I'm going to go old school, and the artist that you had on previously, Chris, was saying there's no shame in making money from your art. So I just thought, well, yeah, this album cost a lot to make. So
I can imagine. Most musicians release singles. They don't these days. They don't release whole albums because of the cost is so prohibitive.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, this took 3 years. It was just full on, and thought, well, for 3 years just to whack it on Spotify and just give it away, and for people not to hear it as it's meant to sound, that 3D kind of sound.
Yep.
where you get the different sounds in different speakers and things like that. I just thought, no, I want them to hear it properly. So, I'm not being totally selfish though. I mean, there's a few songs from it on Spotify, but the whole album is on Bandcamp.
Oh, I'll have to look into getting Bandcamp, because obviously I download at least 50 songs a month to add to our playlist. Or up to 50 songs a month, I should say, to add to our playlist. And I've just always used Spotify, but I've heard a few musicians now have said to me that you get a much better return as a musician, as the artist, when it's downloaded off Bandcamp.
Yeah, totally. Like Bandcamp pay over 70% per sale. And once a month they have a Bandcamp Friday where they pay you 93% of the sale.
Wow.
And they stick to that and they hold to that. And I've discovered, a lot of different music on there, and it's really good quality stuff too.
Oh, cool. I'll have to look into it.
Yeah.
So you've got the album out as a CD, which I love. I don't actually have a CD player, but I collect CDs of local musicians and have them signed. I've asked my kids to get me a CD player for Christmas.
Cool.
So I can listen. Oops. Sorry,
awesome.
I just tipped over a water bowl. Tell me about where you've played. What venues have you played? Because I imagine trying to sell CDs will work a lot better when you're playing live gigs.
Yeah, so there's an amazing live music venue in Albany called 6 Degrees.
I've heard of that, yeah.
Yeah, and they're very supportive of musicians, and they've got this room called the Gold Room, which is done up so that they can film the performers, the sound, that they provide a sound engineer with really state-of-the-art speakers and sound desk, digital sound desk. Sounds amazing. And I played a lot of sort of events and wineries and things like that where they like music to be a little bit on the softer side.
Yep.
Although, that said, I did do a support for Ash Grunwald when he was in Albany in February, and I just busted out a 40-minute set of all my upbeat blues tracks. And I was, in a different zone there. So I'm pretty versatile, but with this album, I just felt like I needed some gentle kind of healing music.
Yeah, it is very healing, evocative.
Yeah.
So 6 Degrees, is that your favourite venue that you've played so far?
Yeah, I feel safe there. Safety is a big issue for me.
Yeah.
I'm not really into sort of playing in rowdy pubs or anything like that these days. Plus, I'm a solo performer, so it's a bit hard when you don't have a big band with you as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, if there's any artists visiting Albany, I highly recommend them getting in touch with 6 Degrees.
Yeah. Well, that's how I've heard of it, is artists that I follow have been playing there. I know that Lockie John played there recently.
Yeah.
So where would you like to play that you haven't played yet?
Well, I'd like to play at some Perth venues. It's just that I don't really know the Perth scene very well, so just sort of, I mean, I've heard about little cafes that have singer-songwriter nights.
Yeah.
But I don't really know where they are. I need to really do my research a bit more because I have been out of the scene for a while before I released this album. So I kind of feel like I'm kicking off again.
Square one, yeah.
Yeah.
And if you were able to play, support any local or Australian musicians, local as wide as the rest of Australia, I tend to think local as in, for me, it's Fremantle.
Yeah, I love
Western
Freo.
Australia. But you can stretch your imagination as wide as Australia. Who would you most love to support?
Geez, that's a good question. I mean, it'd be awesome to support the Waves, of course.
Yeah. Yep.
But I mean that's hard. That's a long shot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, female vocalists
Uh-huh.
would be just fantastic.
Yep. I could see
Yeah.
you supporting someone like Jack Davies or Lockie John and the Red Bellies. They're local folk musicians that, particularly Jack, like to have solo performers on before him.
Yeah, and that'd be amazing. I mean, Jack Davies is fantastic.
Yeah, he's my favourite musician. We've already played one of his songs today.
Yeah,
Our
cool.
regular listeners would know that he's my favourite musician because I believe every playlist should have at least one Jack Davies, and so I put at least one Jack Davies into each of our playlists.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, I mean, support. A support act for some Perth bands would be amazing.
Yeah.
For me. Yeah.
Now, you mentioned you've got some real bluesy numbers. Rhiannon Blues is a sassy blues number that tells a story of Welsh supernatural being Rhiannon of the ancient text. Can you say it for me? I can't.
The Mabinogi.
The Mabinogi.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
So Rhiannon, that character was made famous by Stevie Nicks when her song Rhiannon that shot Fleetwood Mac to fame, and she found that character in a storybook, and she's from a Welsh collection of tales. Nobody knows who the author is. It's a very ancient text, and there's a story in it called Rhiannon, and it's about this shape-shifting goddess who can turn into flocks of birds and even a horse, and she rides this horse. She has a suitor who can't figure out why his servants can't catch her on their really fast horses, or he can't catch her on his really fast stallion. And then eventually she just stops and turns around and says, well, yeah, all you had to do was kind of talk to me. You didn't have to chase me around everywhere. So, yeah, it's the story of the chase. Yeah.
All right, well, let's have a listen to it. This song for our listeners goes for just under 5 minutes, and then we'll be back for a little bit more chat with Simone. And that was Rhiannon Blues by Simone Keane, who's joined us from Albany today to have a chat about her new album, Graced by Leaves. That was a beautiful song, Simone.
Thank you. Yeah, I love the lead guitar break by Roscoe Dwyer on that. It's so bluesy.
Yeah, it's a really good listen, actually. Speaking of listening, how can our listeners have a listen to your album? We mentioned Bandcamp. I'm just having a look at your website now, which is www.simonekeane, that's SIMONEKEANE.com. I believe that they can have a listen from the website.
So they can hear a couple of tracks. They can see the film clip for Kicking Up the Leaves on there, and also the film clip for Graced by Leaves on there. But with Bandcamp, they're really generous. They give people a few free listens, and then you can decide if you want to buy it or not. So that's if people want to, just listen to the whole thing. They can, and there's a few songs on Spotify, just not the whole album. Yeah.
Yeah, and if people wanted to contact you, do you mind? How do they do that?
Not at all. They can just email me. My emails on the website, or they can just message me on my Facebook, which is Simone Keane Music. Yeah. So.
And I'm reading that you were nominated a few Wham songs. You were nominated 5 times for Wham Song of the Year, and then you won it twice. Is that correct?
Yeah. That was my first album, Burning. So I won the mentally healthy category, which is now Act Belong Commit, I think it's called. for a song called Ragdoll, and in the same competition I won the regional category as well. Back in 2010, I think that was, yeah.
I was travelling Europe in 2010.
Oh, lucky you.
America and Europe. I was supposed to go for a year, but I got a bit homesick. I only went for 8 months. So I spent the last 3 weeks in Greece bawling my eyes out. So my mum suggested I come home. Oh, pardon me. So what else can I ask you? Do you have plans to gig soon?
Yes, so I've got a gig next Sunday at the Dam in Denmark. It's a brewery. I think it's like they brew hemp. I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued to try a hemp beer. And then I'm heading over to my hometown in Victoria to play a hometown gig because when I left Camperdown, I wasn't a singer-songwriter. And so I'd like to go back and actually play there.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my plans so far. And then I feel I've got this good feeling, like you say, you know, coming up and doing some support gigs. I just feel like things are just going to start to fall into place as far as that journey goes.
And do you have representation to help you to book gigs or?
No, I do it, gig booking. Yeah, I do it all on my own. I've got this fear of pressure.
Yep.
So I'm a bit of an anxiety sufferer. So I just sort of, that trepidation of making sure that the venue's safe and I've got people looking out for me and that kind of thing.
And where do you see yourself in the next 5 years musically?
Gee, I don't know. Maybe releasing singles because the album took a lot out of me.
Yeah.
I've already got new songs that I'd like to release as singles. And just maybe having reached a wider audience as well, so that more people are aware of the songs.
Yep. All right, well, we're going to finish off the chat with one last song. This one, if you could tell us a little bit about it, is Carry Trees in the Rain. I've got here that it's a collaboration with poet Giles Watson. Yeah, can you tell me a little bit about that? How did that come about?
Sure. Yes, so Carry Trees in the Rain was originally 3 verses that were sent to me by a writer called Giles Watson. And he'd been living in the UK for about 15 years and he came to Albany to care for his ageing parents. And I found a poem of his on Facebook and thought, wow, this is pretty amazing writing. And I just put a comment underneath his poem and then he got in touch with me and asked if I'd be interested in writing some music to some of his lyrics. And so Carry Trees in the Rain was the first song we ever wrote, and I just asked him if I could add another verse on the end, which is where the phrase Graced by Leaves and the title of the album comes from.
You added the bridge where you sing, I'm on my knees under carry trees, their healing shade, a cathedral graced by leaves. And that's how you came up with you next wrote Graced by Leaves and you had the title of the album.
Yes. And this song's got the most beautiful strings on it by Marie Limondin and Kirsten Fage. And it's just me and the guitar. So it's a very stripped back folky tune about just going into the Karri Forest when you need to get away from everything.
Yes, yeah. I love the Karri Forest. They've got, for people that, our listeners extend to the UK, Ireland, the US and Canada, as well as Australia-wide. So for those that are listening that don't know the Karri forests, they are huge. How tall would you say they are, Simone? Do you know?
Karri trees, probably, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 metres high.
Uh-huh.
Some of them are just massive.
I'm just looking it up, see if we can get how tall they are. So it says here that Karri trees are commonly known as the Karri. It's not going to description. Can reach as high as 90 metres.
90 metres?
Yeah, making it the tallest tree in Western Australia and one of the tallest in the world. They typically grow to a height of 10 to 60 metres, but can reach as high as 90, which is 300 feet for those in America and the UK who don't speak in metric. They've got a girth of around 10 to 12 metres, so that's a lot. It's a lot of tree.
Yeah, a lot of big, beautiful tree.
And they call them the Tinglewoods in Walpole because they have a magical effect when they're grouped together like that. And you can go walking through the treetops in Walpole, which is down near Denmark and Albany, for those that don't know. And you can go on a walk through the treetops, the Karri treetops, and it's just magical, isn't it?
It's amazing. And so a lot of people, when they think of Western Australia, they just sort of think of desert.
Yeah.
But down, in the southwest and the Great Southern, it's lush.
It's lush, yeah. Yeah. Well, let's have a listen to Karri Trees in the Rain. And thank you so much for joining us today, Simone.
Thank you, Sandy.
We'll have a chat off air about linking you up with some of the local folk musicians here in Fremantle and surrounds. And
beautiful.
We'll do that off air. I'll give you a call during the week.
Yay.
All righty. Thanks so much for coming on, Simone. And let's have a listen to Karri Trees in the Rain.
Because there's nowhere left to turn and no one left to find, I go down to the Karri Grove to quench my burning mind. Rosella splashing through the leaves, plumed in licks of flame, the sparks of hope that flicker out through Karri trees in the rain. The branches hung with the ribboned bark, darkened by the wet. Contours mark the growing trunk, and I shall not forget the bronze wing on a limb of bone. How mournful hues refrain, a lonely voice that cools my soul like Karri trees in the rain. Globes of earth and sky, the dark and sap is around a limb. My fingers trace the stain, and I am streaked with living tears like Karri trees in the rain. I'm on my knees under carry trees, the healing shade, a cathedral graced by leaves. I hear the sound of singing birds, they soothe my pain in the sacred space. Carry trees in the rain.
And you're listening to The Yarn, Homespun Arts and Music on IPL Radio. We've had a great show today. We were joined by artist Chris Winspear and musician Simone Keane, that was her song Carry Trees in the Rain, which is a beautiful song. The whole album is beautiful, very mellow, so really nice to listen to on a Sunday afternoon. We had listened to 4 of her songs, Graced by Leaves, Kicking Up the Leaves, Rhiannon Blues and Carry Trees in the Rain. I do recommend going to Bandcamp to have a look at the whole album. As Simone mentioned, you get to have a listen to it a few times before being asked to pay anything. So see if you like it, and if so, support our local musicians by downloading it. Speaking of local musicians that you can download, it is the birthday of Gracie, who is the lead singer of Joan and the Giants. They played a gig on Friday night at the Rechabite, I'm not sure how it's pronounced. And they also played at the Belia Sunsets gig last night, which I didn't get to see because I was a bit tired, so I called it an early one for myself last night. But I would like to have a listen to a little bit of Joan and the Giants. This song is called Wolves, and we'll be right back with Jesus Nation after 4 o'clock.
Take ones to blame? Are we the ones? Hold me in the light. There's no need to fight. Take these pains of my chest. I will learn to love again. Hold me in the light. There's no need to fight. Take these pains from my chest. I will learn to love again.
That was Joan and the Giants with Wolves. Happy birthday to Gracie, the lead singer of Joan and the Giants, otherwise known as Joan, but actually her name is Gracie. That's it for the yarn for this week. We won't be on next week because there is a disability, people living with disability in working in broadcasting awards happening in the studio next week. But we'll be back the following week with Dulce Blue, and obviously an artist as well. We haven't booked the artist yet, but we will. But we will have musicians Dulce Blue. So I'm going to leave you with one of their tracks. Thank you so much for tuning in to The Yarn, Homespun Arts and Music on IPL Radio. And stay tuned for Jesus Nation, which should be coming up in a few minutes. Here's Dulce Blue with Dreamcatcher. Goodbye for now, and we'll be back with Dulce Blue on the Sunday the 10th of December.